Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jai Go Pranande, Hare Hare Go.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. So on behalf of all our New Jersey congregation and our viewers, we would like to welcome His Holiness Badrinarayana Swami Maharaj, broadcasting live from the West Coast. Welcome, Maharaj.
Thank you. I have to admit that I am encumbered by several things. Can you hear me?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I had eye surgery this morning, so I can only see out of one eye. So I'm even more blind than usual. I see the Jayadvaita Maharaj there, who's my senior in every way. So I'm a little embarrassed to be speaking in front of him. And lastly, I have a very nice man who's fixing my stove and oven. So we have a guest here who's coincidentally, or by the arrangement of the Supreme, here at the same time. So it's an interesting circumstance. So thank you for your patience, and be a little tolerant of me. I'm not at my full strength. I guess I should. Now you have this PowerPoint set up, right?
Yeah, I can share that PowerPoint if you like.
So I should give a little intro first. And devotees are very kind. And they like to give these long, flowery introductions. And in the case of others, they're usually quite accurate. In my case, it reminds me of when the Himalayas were going to give birth, and the Himalayas, and all the demigods and great sages and rishis and saints assembled. And there was some rumbling and shaking. But all that came out were a few mice. So people make these big, elaborate introductions, and it's just me at the end of the day. So I feel a little embarrassed. So therefore, I'm going to give my own introduction, if you don't mind.
You don't mind, Maharaj.
All right. I thought you wouldn't. After all, I can always push the mute button. So I was simply sailing along an illusion in the land of sweet dreams, sunny San Diego, sunny Laguna Beach, California. And somehow or other, by Krishna's grace, I got and shortly thereafter, I started attending the temple in Laguna Beach and then Prabhupada Sunday lectures at the Los Angeles Temple, the old Los Angeles Temple on La Cienega. And the rest is history. I really, as much as I tried, I didn't have a better argument or better what to do with my life. It was real. Anyway, there it is. You know the history. So I first met Prabhupada in 1969. I moved into the temple in 1970. Swami, you may not remember this, but I almost left ISKCON. And there's many people who will now falsely, you made a nasty email, he was visiting as a brother, visiting the Los Angeles temple. I was a young 17-and-a-half-year-old passionate doctor. And I was ticked off about something, you know, living in the ashram, sharing space with so many people that ordinarily you wouldn't even, some of them you would cross the street if you saw them coming down the sidewalk. So I had the wherewithal, by Krishna's grace, to ask Jayadvaita. Jayadvaita Maharaj was visiting there. Some BBT press business, I don't know. But he was getting dressed in the Brahmacharya ashram, and I said, Maharaj, or I said, Prabhu, you're a senior. I'm thinking of leaving Krishna consciousness. I will live in Hawaii and chant japa and make surfboards with my brother. I remember Krishna, no problem. And he communicated to me all my difficulties. Oh, I know that devoted stuff to live with, and oh, you know, you have to sleep with the same room, 12 men, and half of them snore. Whatever it was, he commiserated. I thought, geez, they're trying to get rid of me. Some kind of reverse psychology. What's going on here? And then he ended, though, by saying one profound thing, one profound point that has stayed with me all of my life in devotional service. He said, you know, it's right. Seriously practicing spiritual life, living in an ashram, it is not easy. Not easy being a devotee. We have so many do-nots. I thought Prabhupada, when he first said that, I thought he said donuts. I thought he was announcing the Sunday feast. I was happy till I realized he was saying yama and niyama. We have do's and do-nots. So Jayadvaita Swami said it's very difficult being a devotee. There's only one thing harder. Anyone know the one thing harder than being a devotee?
Not being a devotee?
Not being a devotee. It's true. So there it is. I moved into 1970. Eventually, I became a temple president in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Then in 1987, I became a member of the GBC. I've been serving in that capacity ever since 1987 as a member of our governing body. And I've got the gray hairs to confirm it. And there it is. So I think that's enough of an introduction. Can we sally forth with the PowerPoint?
Yes, Maharaj. One request though, there seems to be a degradation of the sound quality from where you're sitting. In the beginning, it was quite clear, and then in between, there was a lot of garbledness. So I'm not.
That's
sure.
not good.
So
You should have. Why didn't you say something as soon as it became garbled? That's your job, my friend. No, I'm serious.
It was going in and out and just kept clearing up. So I said, okay, maybe it'll be good now. And then it kept going back.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's try
this. So I'm hoping this headphone will address the situation.
In the Mahabharata, that these technologies are a harsher soka. They give both happiness and distress. Is this any better?
It's good now, but I'm hoping it remains good.
Hey, Prabhu, I'm not a magician. You've got what you've got. Let's roll. If it gets squirrely, then I'll hand it off to you, or Jayadvaita Swami can give class. That would be very nice. We'll take it as the sign of Krishna.
So another suggestion, if Maharaj, I don't know if you're close to your router, the internet router, how far you are away from it.
I'm not going to fool around with all that stuff because that's not the problem. Usually it works fine.
Okay. All right, we'll go. Right now it's pretty decent, so we'll go with this. I will start the slideshow.
Thank you, Prabhu. Now I have a question for you.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience, by the way. Now I see some very nice devotee faces on the right-hand side of my screen, but it blocks some of the text. Do you guys have that, or do you just have the full text, the full PowerPoint?
I think you can move that around.
But that's not what I asked you. What I asked you is, what do you guys see?
I do not see those faces because I just folded them up myself.
Oh.
But everybody has the ability to fold that up, and so you can see the whole slide.
And how do we do that, my friend?
Okay, so you just have to, when you go over, put your mouse over where it has those photographs. There is a little icon that says hide thumbnail video. It's the first icon. It's like a little slim rectangle. Just click over it and it should hide your thumbnail videos.
Well, that's an interesting piece of information. However, I see add, I don't see hide. Sorry to take up people's time. Hide self view. But I don't see
you have to put your mouse over the photographs. And then there's a little black bar over that frame.
Interestingly enough, that's not happening. I guess I will simply tolerate. It's a great world.
What about the other devotees? I think the other devotees can see it. I'm able to see it.
Because it's good if they can see the text. 3 rectangles at the top. Regrettably, I'm not getting that. Let's try this. Okay, so now we're good. All right, Prabhus. The Krishna describes to his father in Bhagavad Gita that, not in Bhagavad Gita, in the Krishna book, that one can perform an action in knowledge, or one can just do it by blind faith. And it's much better to act in knowledge. And especially if people are coming from India, but it's also true in the West, we should understand why we believe what we believe. Why do we have confidence in our conclusions about spiritual life? And this is giving some history. Why we accept why we accept we're not just blind faith. So that's the setup for this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, next. Now, what to do about being choppy? Sometimes it's because we have so many people. I don't know. That's discouraging. Hey, Madan Mohan, are you with me?
I'm here. I can hear you.
When I say next, you have to advance the PowerPoint.
Okay. And by the way, you can also click it and it should also move. But I can do that for you.
Really? Like, whoa, hang on, man. Hang on. Now, that would be very good. And yet it's not happening.
It says over here.
So I don't want to eat up everybody's time with the tutorial. I'll just say next and you just move it, okay?
No problem.
Can you do that? Ah. Now, how do we know what we know? Do we, they say seeing is believing. Well, it may be believing, but it's not actually knowing. I don't know what's on the other side of the wall. I don't even know what you're seeing on your screen. I don't know how many hairs I have on my head. I was in Prabhupada's room in Detroit, and a man kept saying, well, as far as I know, well, Swamiji, as far as I know, well, as far as I know. After about the third or fourth time, Prabhupada cut him off and said, that's my point. How far do you know? So that's the question. How far, I think knowledge based on our own limited senses, we need to be honest. If we really want to find out the truth, we need to be honest. Am I going to figure everything out by my senses? As far as I know, in my opinion. Well, what's your opinion based on? People are shocked. When you say, frankly, what does it really matter what your opinion is? I'm a conditioned soul being tossed and turned by the modes of nature. What do I know? Okay, so next. Well, people say, well, okay, but we have accumulative knowledge. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Each generation adds more to the pool of knowledge. And in this way, gradually, we're pushing back the frontiers of ignorance. Eventually, we're understanding everything. We're figuring it out more and more. Well, that's true to a degree. I don't know. Somebody could look it up for me sometime. In the 1930s, I don't know what the record for pole vaulting in the Olympics was. I think it was around 16 feet. They said no one will ever go beyond 18. Now they're up to 18 plus, 20 feet and some inches. They got better shoes, they got better poles, they got better technique, Okay, fine. Incrementally, the height they're able to vault to is increasing. But is anyone ever going to pole vault to the moon? You follow my example? It's like you can move within a certain range, like a rubber band can expand to a certain point, but ultimately it's going to snap. So our senses are limited. If I take 0 times 0 to the 0th power, it's still going to be 0. So if I take imperfection times limitation, I'm still going to have imperfect, limited knowledge. I'll give one more example, and then we'll get rolling. By the way, is this sound any better? Tell me the truth, because I don't know what to do.
Yes, it's much better.
That's Krishna's mercy. Yeah. So suppose Nilamani and I are sitting together and we're socially distanced. We're 6 feet apart. Now, suppose some prankster has poured glue on my seat. I cannot get up from my chair. I can lean, I can extend, but I cannot move out of my seat. Is it possible for me to shake hands Nilamani Prabhu. Can I shake hands with him? What do you think? Do people think no?
Not very easily. I mean, if you're that far away, you won't reach him.
Do we have any advocates for yes, I can? Yes, it can be done, but I can shake hands with him?
I mean, he could come closer to you.
Exactly. I am limited in my extent. But if the other party takes the initiative and comes to me, I can shake hands with him easily. Prabhupada liked this saying, you cannot take the kingdom of God by storm. You can't take the kingdom of God by storm. That if there is an infinite supreme and we are finite, we're not going to be able to reach the finite by our limited means. It's revelatory. As it says in the Vedas, it's descending knowledge. If the Absolute takes the initiative to reveal himself to us, then we can know very easily. But by our own straining our brain and pride and empiric investigation, forget it. So there it is. Next. Therefore, this picture here, this is Krishna, the cause of all causes. And this is from the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye, that Krishna takes the initiative. Brahma, you know the story. He's trying to find out. Brahma's the smartest entity, the first Adikavi, the first living entity. And he can't find out the cause of causes. He can't figure out where he came from. He hears the sound tapa, perform tapasya, but he doesn't know what the source is. He tries his own investigation. But ultimately, he knows the sublime truth only when the Absolute, only when Krishna reveals himself within his heart. So the point I'm making is that absolute truth has to descend to us. It is revelatory. It is descending. And the way it descends is through the 4 sampradayas, these 4 lines of disciplic succession. Next. It's a simple analogy, but it makes sense. People, I don't mean to offend anybody, but there's that so-called guru from India, the lady, the hugging ma. You ask him, what line did you come in? Does anyone know a verse in Bhagavad Gita? People say, well, I've realized the absolute truth. There was another one, he's passed away, and he, as a small boy, was in his village, and a mule kicked him in his head. It's a true story. It's in his biography. Mayor Baba, I think was his name. But he was kicked in the head as a small boy, and when he was in a coma for several weeks, and when he came out, he realized that he was God. Now, I was thinking what really happened is they knocked a few screws loose when he got kicked in the head by the mule. So how do we know? What does Krishna say? How do you know if a teacher is actually in touch with the Absolute? He's got a nice long beard. He wears saffron cloth. He can string together some snazzy poetry. Anyone know a verse in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter? That's a pretty big hint. Tadvidi pranipatena, does that ring a bell?
Yes, approach is
It's someone who's coming in a bona fide line of disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam. That goes with it, a secondary support verse. So if you want to know the absolute truth, you have to find someone who's coming in disciplic succession. And it's simple. You can have a whole string of extension cords. You ever plugged in and your computer doesn't turn on or your phone won't charge? What's one of the first things you should do?
You unplug and plug it in.
Is it plugged in? You look at the plug. You're not going to, you can have all the extension cords connecting, but if it's not plugged into the wall, you're not getting any juice, my friend. So there has to be a chain. Master to disciple, master, disciple, master to disciple. It goes all the way back to the cause of all causes, the absolute truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna. So if you have all the cords are connected and they're connected to the source, the juice will flow. Next. Just to summarize, we're going to get into some details I think you'll find interesting. But we have from Krishna. Now, these are the main power sources. There's many, they're all connected by many pure devotees. But for simple visionary purposes, from Krishna to Brahma to Madhvacharya to Lord Chaitanya to Srila Prabhupada to your ISKCON Diksha Guru. This same knowledge is coming down. Next. If you have ever been in India, I actually saw this in Mexico one time. If you have a nice big mango tree, where do you find the sweetest mangoes?
At the top.
They're at the top. Thank you. I appreciate the help, Prabhu. They're at the top of the, no, I do. I appreciate it. They're at the top of the tree. So what to do? You can shake the tree, but what happened? The mangoes will fall down and break on the ground. You know, you climb up, fill up your pocket. How many mangoes can you take? So, but if you make a chain, one person gets up one branch, another gets up another branch, and you make a chain all the way to the top of the tree. The man at the top hands down to the next man hands to the next man hands to the next man, and the exact same mango, unbroken, ripe and sweet as it was at the top of the tree, is put right into your hand. So it's a chain, guru disciple, for delivering the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree of knowledge. So there's 4 bona fide Vaishnava Sampradayas. We'll talk about these in a minute, but I want to talk about some history. There's the Brahma Sampradaya coming from Lord Brahma. There's the Rudra Shiva Sampradaya coming from Lord Shiva. There's the Kumara Sampradaya, and there's the Lakshmi Sampradaya. So someone if spouting off, I think, in my opinion, or my understanding of Bhagavad Gita, you simply ask them, well, Krishna says that if I accept you as a spiritual master, as a spiritual teacher, you have to be coming in a bona fide Sampradaya, coming from Krishna. So what Sampradaya are you in? And if they're not in one of these 4 Sampradayas, they're not connected to the source. So we wish them well and say, thank you very much. I'm finding a bona fide Sampradaya. Next. Huh? Took a break? Okay, there we go. Krishna says, so there is a history, because sometimes they say, well, why do the Sampradayas, you know, they're teaching, our different acharyas are teaching differently at different times. And, you know, sometimes there's some bewilderment. So Krishna's Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. He's the best friend of every living entity. Prabhupada used to say that Krishna wants us to go back to him more than we even want to go. We're pretty fair weather friends. You know, anyway, there's a book called Brave New World. And one of the principles was that ultimately everyone's love has a breaking point. You think, well, I love someone and that's the highest true calling. But ultimately people have breaking points. Even if you don't have a breaking point in that love, the time and tide wait for no one. You die, you go one way, they go the other. But Krishna's been in the heart, in our hearts. He's in the heart as the Chaitya Guru of every living entity. We eat meat, we forget about Krishna, we perform the most sinful deeds in this life, that life. We have done so many things. And Krishna stays with us. He stays within our heart. Katu Upanishad, like 2 birds in the tree. Krishna keeps trying to deliver us, to give us good intelligence. So Krishna never gives up. And one of the ways, I just said it, there's 3 gurus. Anyone, of course, there's the 24 gurus of a material nature, but I'm talking about in the sense of guru, it's said that there's 3 gurus. Now, Krishna's Chaitya Guru is one guru. Who's another guru?
The Diksha Guru.
Diksha Guru. Very good. 10 points for you. Who's the next?
And the Siksha Guru.
Siksha Guru. So there's 3 gurus, and Krishna comes as Siksha Guru, giving instruction. He comes via the acharyas. But they teach, here's a key point, they teach according to time, place, and circumstance. People have different mindsets at different times. There's different cultural norms. There's different worldviews. We know in our own so-called modern history, there's the world of the age of faith. There's the age of reason. There's the age of enlightenment. There's the age of disillusion, you know, after World War II and the failure of you making the world a safer place. So there's different ages, there's different mindsets. And the duty of these great acharyas coming in these sampradayas is to speak according to time, place, and circumstance, to what the audience can accept. Next. It is like a race. You see how one person is handing the baton off to the next, and the next will carry it, the next, and in this way, they pass it down the track. So each of these great teachers in our sampradayas, these cyclic succession, they are giving the same truth, but they're giving it according to time, place, and circumstance. And each acharya is handing the truth all the way down to our modern time. We are modern ISKCON gurus. They're getting that same truth. They got it from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada got it from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Now, why this all matters, we're going to get into in a second. Next. So let's start off with a little history to give you an example how the arc of truth bends. And it, why the theme of this, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings of Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, why is that paramount? I'm going to say paramount, and I'm going to be all-encompassing, comprehensive. The teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inculcate, embody, contain all the teachings of the previous acharyas. So here's an example of Buddha. Now, in Buddhism, people were simply materialistic. They were just, there's no God, there's no soul. You know, in some areas, they were using the Vedas to cheat and eat meat, you know, claiming it was, you know, whatever. But basically, they were just irreligious. You know, just living like polished dogs and cats. Sophistication was there, but their motivations just eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we may die. So Buddha comes along and says to them, hey, at least admit you're suffering. And and any person who's smart, we're not going to go down that path because we don't have time. But there is if one is honest, if one opens one's eyes, there is birth, death, disease, and old age. Now, they used to be very proud. Hey, listen, you know, we got rid of smallpox, you know, we're working on malaria, typhoid's on the edge. Turns out all of those it's a thin line. There's practically one antibiotic standing between us and bubonic plague. And guess what? We all know what's on everybody's mind, COVID. And there's many more coming at us. It's just the sad truth. As long as we're butchering animals and eating their flesh, we're going to get, it's called zoonotic. It's Ebola, SARS, I mean, bird flu. Where do you want to start? So Buddha says, listen, at least the common denominator is your suffering. And the reason you're suffering is because of all of your desires, and you're getting entangled in karma. So if you stop desires, there's no karma and there'll be no suffering. So the whole point is to become zero, to cease to exist. Ask a Buddhist. Actually get them, hey, sit down, have a second with me. If I become perfect at your teaching, what do I ultimately become? And what they say ultimately, I mean, there's Tibetan Buddhists, there's different flavors, but ultimately, You cease to, there's no more ego to drive a false identity. You cease to exist. It's the void, spiritual suicide. So at least he got them. He got them to follow religious principles. That, you know, it's the eightfold path. You know, right means, right thought, right activity, all the different things there, you know, to dharmic principles. So he got them from being just animals, polished animals, to at least following sub-religious principles. He could only move the baton that far down the race. Next, because that's all people could handle. Next. Oh, there we go. Stay with us, my friend. Sankaracharya. Now, what's the difference? Sankaracharya, he says, hang on a minute. You don't just become nothing. It's not, you know, literally spiritual suicide, ceasing to exist. There is the material nature and there's the spiritual nature. Now, that spiritual name is formless. We've all heard it. Found your home and home. You merge into the oneness. You no longer have an identity. Now we're like a drop of water. You know, the ocean splashes against the rock. There's drops of water. So for the drop, momentarily has a independent existence, but ultimately falls back into the ocean. So yes, there's material. He differentiates. There's Dvaita and Advaita. There's the material world and there's the spiritual world. There is an eternal identity. You just have no identity. You just merge. You become one with the ocean, with the light. Next. Of course, one needs to ask, if it's all one, what caused the one to separate into drops? They have no answer for that, but that's another story. And the Buddhist isn't the desire to become desireless, a self-centered desire. Desire is the very essence of existence. So, I mean, there's so many things. So here's a number line. This is what differentiates the Vaishnava Sampradayas from Buddhism and from the followers of Sankaracharya. You know, a number line, it has all the negative numbers, -1, -2, you know, going back to infinity in negative numbers. So the Buddhists, their idea is to come to zero and you cease to exist, spiritual suicide. The followers of Sankaracharya say, well, it's not really completely zero. It's formless, it's nirvisesha, it's sunyavadi, but you have a identity. You're a spiritual particle floating in the ocean of light. Well, that's not a whole lot of fun just between you and me. That what about if we say numbers, all there are is negative numbers and zero. Well, what will anyone say? Well, hang on a minute. What about all the positive numbers? There's a whole positive spectrum. Prabhupada used to give this example, and it's great. If I hold my hand out and there's a shadow, why does the shadow of the hand have 5 fingers? Anyone know?
5 fingers.
Huh?
Because the original hand has 5 fingers.
Because the original object has 5 fingers. Why does the drop of water, you take a drop of water out of the ocean and you analyze it, there'll be so much sodium, there'll be so much gold, so much, I don't know whatever's in there. If those drop, I'll give another example. If I have a subset of numbers, if I have a set of numbers and I take a subset of numbers, so, you know, basic algebra, sorry, Prabhush, you can't escape it. If I have a set of numbers and I take a subset of numbers, can I have a factor in that subset of numbers that is not in the original set? No. Can I have anything in the subset that's not in the original set?
You have to have in the original set.
It has to be there. So if we are emanations, sparks of the absolute, and we have form, we have personality, we have desires, we have emotions, which we do. No one can deny it. Then how do we have something that the absolute doesn't have? The absolute is some great home and om shining light, voidless, unknowable. What is that? Doesn't make any sense at all. It's not logical. It's not true. And it's not what our acharyas say. Our acharyas say you have false ego, negative numbers. You have positive ego, positive numbers. We're thinking I'm black, I'm white, I'm American, I'm Russian. We've had so many bodies, dog, cat, man, woman. But what we really are, real identity, is the positive realm, Nitai Sarup Krishna Das. I'm an eternal servant of God. So that is where the Vaishnava Sampradayas pick up. The Vaishnava Sampradayas are explaining the spiritual reality. What is our identity? What is our relationship of love with the Supreme Krishna? Next.
Vishnu Swami.
Thank you very much. And from each of these acharyas had the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're going to get into that in a second. Each one of these four sampradayas, all four sampradayas are infused by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. First is Vishnu Swami. You can see the date there in the Rudra Sampradaya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him and told him, from your sampradaya, I will take two qualities. So we'll recap these, don't worry. But we get from Vishnu Swami exclusive dependence on the Lord, on Krishna, and spontaneous devotion. Not just doing, give me, I want, or the karma kandis, or, I follow all the rules and regulations. If I go to church on Sunday and, I'll go to heaven. But genuine love, spontaneous love. So that's what we get from the Vishnu Sampradaya. Exclusive dependence on the Lord and spontaneous devotion. Next.
Nimbarkacharya.
Yes. In the Kumara Sampradaya from Nimbarkacharya, we get information of Srimati Rādhārāņi and her selfless, unreserved love and taking shelter of Srimati Rādhārāņi and the gopis' love for Krishna. Completely selfless. Each one of these is a class in yourself, but I'm not going to, we have another purpose here. Next.
Ramanuja.
Yes. Thank you very much. In the Lakshmi Sampradaya. Does anyone, Ramanujacharya, pure devotional service, free from karma and jnana, free from, like you've got the Calvin, you've got in Christian ideas, you've got different, if I just act properly, I can take the kingdom of God by storm. No, it doesn't work like that. And service to the devotees, that I'm not a kanista, it's just me and God, but rather by service to the devotees. Jesus says, what is it? I'm embarrassed that I've forgotten. What is it? Love thy Lord God with all your heart, but also to love others. That's another point. So service to the devotees. Next.
Madhvacharya.
Are you saying this beforehand just to prove that you know what I'm talking
about? I think there's a bit of a lag because I'm clicking it and it only appears 3 seconds later on your screen.
So they'll get it. Don't worry. They'll see it. So Madhvacharya, we are in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Does anyone know? Can you see Madhvacharya's right hand?
The 2 fingers.
Why is he making a V? Is he a precursor to Winston Churchill? Is it V? Is it V for victory? Is he an early hippie giving the peace sign? No, he's adamantly making this point that even in liberation, if I become a pure follower of spiritual truth, if I develop pure love of God, I don't merge into the ocean of light. I go and serve God. As I'm an individual here, I am also an individual in service to the Supreme Lord in the kingdom of God. So eternally individuals, even in liberation. So there's the Atma and the Paramatma. Those 2 fingers separate the individual jiva, the individual spirit soul, and the Supreme Lord. And service to the deity. That here in this world, we can actually practice Krishna. So Prabhupada says Krishna comes in a form that we can handle. I'll say it again. Krishna comes in a form that we can handle, and literally handle. We can dress him, we can bathe him, we can garland him, we can cook for him. We can actually, our spontaneous love is generated by seva to the deity. Okay, next. Now, here's some fun. As I said earlier, all four Vaishnava acharyas had the darshan of Lord Chaitanya. Now, this is quite a claim. Next. This comes from the Sri Navadvip Mahatmya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is Lord Nityananda reveals the glories of Navadvip to Jiva Goswami. But it's not just there. Next. We find this in the treasure house of Srila Prabhupada's books. Is there anyone here, I'd ask you to raise your hands, but I can't see, who has, amongst the initiated devotees, anyone who has not finished reading the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam? I hope not. Anyone who has not read Chaitanya Charitamrita? First off, you're depriving yourself. I'll give you an example. We get the, and Jadwaita Maharaj knows, we get this kind of question all the time. Oh, Maharaj, oh, Swamiji, somehow or other, I'm not feeling enlivened. I'm not getting any juice. I feel tired in my spiritual life. I get hit by so many waves of sense gratification, material desires. We ask, let me say this. If you go to the doctor and you tell the doctor, I'm weak, I'm listless, I've got this gnawing pain in my stomach, the doctor asks, are you eating your meals regularly? Well, guess what? You're not eating, you have a gnawing pain in your stomach. If we don't read Srila Prabhupada's books regularly, they are a treasure house of transcendental knowledge. News we can use. News that's enlivening. They asked Krishna one time, they asked Prabhupada, I was sitting in the room, why is Krishna blue? Prabhupada said, because it is so gorgeous. There's one chapter of Krishna book. It's just called Wonderful Krishna. The amazing, wonderful pastimes of Krishna. The amazing glories of God. Or transcendental knowledge. I read a sentence the other day. There's a devotee who's going through a hard time in life. And there's a line I came across. Prabhupada's explaining the Daya Bhak verse. That's a whole other section, but anyway. And Prabhupada's sentence is, the suffering of this world is actually the curative, therapeutic hand of the benign Lord. Now that's a lot. Again, we're not going to go too far on it. But Prabhupada says, suffering of this world, because everybody suffers. There's no God. It's all happening by chance. God has abandoned me. I'm like Jonah in the whale. What happened here? It is the therapeutic, curative hand. The doctor has to lance a boil sometimes. Sometimes you get a shot. I got a shot in my eye. Try that on. It's going to cure my eyesight by Krishna's grace. So the therapeutic, curative hand of the benign Lord. That Krishna's all loving. He's benign. If I'm going through something, it's a token reaction from past misdeeds. It's meant to teach me a good lesson. It's meant to set an example for others. There is a reason. There is a good reason. The benign, loving hand. I'm not abandoned in this world. So my point is, we need to read Prabhupada's books. And if you read Prabhupada's books, I've been reading Prabhupada's books to the best of my ability. I should read more. We all should, except for Jadwaita Swami. he's pretty much on top of the case. But it's like a jewel. You open it up and you mine it. You find an emerald here and a ruby here and some gold here, and you string it together, and it's a beautiful ornament of the soul. So what I'm about to say, I can reference it. I just didn't want to put it all in here to take up the time. But Prabhupada also touches on these topics and states some of them directly in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the next section of what I'm going to present is based on the Navadvip Mahatmya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by Prabhupada's Bhagavatam commentaries, and Chaitanya Charitamrita commentaries. Next. So from Vishnu Swami, Lord Chaitanya appeared to him in a dream. He's in Navadvip, as we know, is a famous place of pilgrimage. It's like Naimisharanya. There's so many places, Vrindavan, Mathura, where since time immemorial, people have gone to practice spiritual life in that especially spiritually saturated atmosphere. So Vishnu Swami, he goes and practices austerity. Navadvip is one of those spiritual places. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him in a dream and said, keep this darshan, keep this form, that God actually has this sublime form as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You keep this secret. Now's not the time. And he disappeared. He told him, I'm going to recap. I want you to teach these two things. Like that baton race, bending the arc of history, preaching according to time, place, circumstance. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Vishnu Swami, I want you to teach these two things. And he disappeared. You can imagine Vishnu Swami gets the darshan of the Supreme Lord in his most merciful form as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He begins to cry. When will I see you? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes back and says, don't worry. When I come, when I manifest my full Chaitanya Leela, you'll come again as Balabhacharya. Next. And Balabhacharya, we know the Gopal deity from the Srinathji deity. Wonderful pastime explained by Lord Nityananda of the Gopal deity. That's our deity. That of the Gujaratis. Now he's in Natwar, Pushti Marg, Balabhacharya. That's all coming from the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Vishnu Swami. Next. Now Nimbarkacharya in Mayapur. He went to Mayapur. He had the darshan of Shiva. The four Kumaras are meditating there. They'll be kind to you. So he went and performed austerities. The four Kumaras initiated him into the Radha Krishna worship, chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Radha Krishna appeared before him and became one as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we'll recap in a moment, said, I'm going to give you two things according to time, place, and circumstance. You teach this. You keep this form secret. You worship me in your heart, but I want you to officially, out in public, teach these two things. Again, Nimbarkacharya, but I don't want to leave you. I'm not leaving Navadvip. I'm not leaving your association. I'm not going anywhere. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, don't worry. You'll get to see me again. He came in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela as Keshava Kashmiri. You know Keshava Kashmiri? If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is just packed with one sublime Leela after another, Keshava Kashmiri was the arrogant, pure devotee of Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. It was completely defeated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit, who asked him to compose 100 verses glorifying Mother Ganga, the Ganges River. He immediately came out like a torrent, this Keshava Kashmiri, with over 100 verses. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu memorized every one, began to fight certain poetic miscalculations, misstructures, mistitles of the wife of Lord Shiva, so many things, you know. Memorized them, and Keshava Kashmiri was completely defeated. Later on, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed himself. So that's Nimbarkacharya, and he's coming as Keshava Kashmiri. Next. Ramanujacharya, he was in Puri. Lord Jagannath told him, you go to Navadvip. He goes to Navadvip. He's performing austerities and prayers. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals himself. And he says, right now, people can only process so much. You teach according to time, place, and circumstance, but I want you to move them farther down the field. I want you to teach, just like Buddha moved them farther down the field, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sankaracharya. Thank you a millionfold. You move them further down the field. Leave it open. Thanks. You move them. That's the guy who fixed my stove. You move them further down the field. And I want you to teach Dasya Rasya. He said, privately, you can worship me in spontaneous Madhurya Ras, but officially, you teach Dasya Ras. Same thing, Ramanujacharya said, well, how will I leave you? How will I live in your separation? Now, what will I do? He became Sri Ananta in Chaitanya Leela. One of his pastimes is he witnessed the wedding of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lakshmi Priya. He's actually Sudevi from the 8 gopis, Prabhupada says. Next, this is the last of our 4 acharyas. We're at the tail end of the presentation. Madhvacharya, he's Lord Gauranga also. He's in Navadvip. Lord Gauranga appeared to him in a dream. He said, I'm so pleased with you, I'm going to come in your sampradaya. Therefore, we're in the Gauriya Madhva Brahma Sampradaya. He said, I want you to rip up these Mayavadis' false conclusions, smash them, and I want you to teach deity worship. It's not idol worship. You don't perform deity worship until your senses are purified, and then you realize it's all Brahman and give up the deity worship. Forget it. Of course, Madhvacharya was also Vayu. He was Hanuman. He was Bhima. And we've got the famous V there at the bottom. For 2. Anyone know again what that V is for?
That individuality.
And
the lotus feet of the Lord.
You've got it, my friend. Jivatma and Paramatma. There's the supreme Archa Vigraha. Anyway, okay, we've got it. Next. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his presentation of Achinta Beda Beda Tattva, inconceivably, because one is stressing the oneness, another is stressing the differences. There's different types of oneness. There's different types of dualism. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's sublime amalgamation, perfect synthesis of all these 4 acharyas is inconceivably, simultaneously one and different. We're going to recap Mahaprabhu. What are the 8 themes? 2 from each of the 4 acharyas. 2 times 4 equals 8. So he wove these 8 themes into his teachings. Next. Just like I take the threads on a loom, individual threads, I wind them together, I can make a beautiful tapestry. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took these 8 cornerstone principles from the 4 sampradayas and wove them into our understanding of spiritual truth. What we know from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is presented in Srila Prabhupada's books, what is taught within ISKCON, is not the blue-collar wing of the Vaishnava tradition. It is the apex of the most complete. It is the summum bonum understanding of the 4 Vaishnava sampradayas. And the 4 Vaishnava sampradayas are the only avenues to pure, complete truth. So, exclusive dependence on Krishna, spontaneous devotion, shelter of Srimati Rādhārāņi, the gopis' love for Krishna. These are the threads. Next. Pure devotional service, free from karma and jnana, service to the devotees. The jivas are eternally liberated individuals, even in liberation, and service to the deity. Next. The thing is, well, we'll get there in a moment, but just relish for a moment how Prabhupada has woven all of those themes together into his purports, into his teachings, and into his practices. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur built on this foundation, because that's what we receive from Srila Prabhupada. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. He stressed these 4 acharyas and their 8 themes as being perfectly presented by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that's what his teaching, the Gaudiya Math, was presenting. I love these 2 pictures. The picture on the left-hand side, this is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati when he took sannyas. Anyone know his age? He's timeless. Okay, fine. I've heard that one before. But does anyone know his physical age? He was 24 years old. Does anyone know why that matters? 24? Prabhupada said at 20, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also took sannyas at 24. course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has a completely spiritual form, but it's considered by Ayurveda at 24, the senses are their most enjoyable. They're at their apex of perception and taste and strength. Anybody over 24? I'm 68 almost. It's all been downhill since 24 Prabhus. So here Prabhupada said, when the body is its most enjoyable, here is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur kicking on the face of Maya. And you just look at his determination. Materially, he has nothing. And spiritually, he is a genuine Maharaj. And then here he is toward the end of his life. It's Chaturmasi, so he has a hair and a beard, but such a sublime personality. So such an Acharya, such a Maharati, he has taken the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the summation of all the previous Acharyas, and presented them as our Gaudiya teachings to Prabhupada. Next. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Samadhi. Any of you who've been to Mayapur, if you're standing in the middle, you look at this garden, you look one way, you'll see the Samadhi of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You look the other way, you will see this temple built by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You see that main dome. Under the main dome and chakra are beautiful deities of Radha and Krishna. Now you can't see it in this picture, but you can see on the four corners, you see those small shikars? Under each of those shikars is a murti of one of our four Vaishnava Acharyas. Anyone want to help me? Anyone want to name one of the Madhvacharyas?
Well, there's Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Nimbarka, Vishnu Swami.
You're getting all the hard work. Thank you, Prabhu. So, yes, because people are visual, like illiterate people, Middle Ages, Dark Ages, would go into those beautiful churches in Europe, and they would see the beautiful stained glass windows, all the different parables of the Bible. It was a teaching technique. So here for the people coming to visit Navadvip, Mayapur, they were getting an understanding that all four acharyas, when they visited this temple, all four acharyas are supporting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings of pure worship of Radha and Krishna. Next. Here's the beautiful deities. This is Gandharvika Giridhari. Gandharvika means Radharāņi, the best of singers, and Krishna, of course, lifting Govardhan Hill, and there's Mahaprabhu. So these are the deities under that dome with the four different acharyas supporting it. So just by the structure of the building, people can understand the purport, a very sublime and powerful understanding. This is the genius of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Next. These last two are just for fun. I was explaining how each of the acharyas teaches according to time, place, and circumstance. Now, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's presenting his to face the materialistic mindset of the time. What is the culture of the time that is blocking people from pure devotional service? Each of the acharyas sized up what was the opposition, what was the mindset of the people at large, what was the cultural mindset, and dismantled it. So he was dealing with British India, and Vaishnavas, and many of them were not even following the print. There's owls, bowels, sahajiyas, so many different things, dressing in saris and dancing with women. So he presented profound, pristine philosophy, such renunciation, so in so many ways, and that was his method. Next. I love this picture because there's a story, the history behind this picture. If you have not read, people are reading, their Bollywood movies and whatever's online, and hours and hours on Facebook, and we waste so much time. Just give a little more time. Give a lot more time if you want, but give more time to reading Prabhupada's books and those books supporting them. There's so much in them. Read Jayadvaita Maharaj's Vanity, Vanity, All is Vanity. It is a powerful book. It'll knock you right back in your chair. So the history behind this picture is presented in the 3-volume biography by Bhakti Vikash Swami on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Read it. Don't deprive yourself. Why are you depriving yourself of pleasure? Are you a masochist? So the story is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, the history, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur invited the governor of Bengal to Navadvip, to Navadvip, Mayapur, actually to Mayapur for Janmashtami. For Mahaprabhu's appearance. So I'll say that again. For Gaur Pranim, Mahaprabhu's appearance, he invited the governor of Bengal. Now you have to understand how powerful the governor of Bengal was, the second official behind the viceroy. There was the viceroy, and the viceroy might have been living in Calcutta at this time. But behind the viceroy was the governor of Bengal. So such a powerful person. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's reputation was so impressive. He was so renowned that he could invite the governor of Bengal to come out to Mayapur. And it was jungle. There was a very bad road, potholes and dirt and, ox cart. It was not a good road. And yet he came out of respect for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Now, the thing is, there are those of lesser consciousness, lesser level. They criticized Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Oh, you're bringing this meat eater. He doesn't even shower after passing stool. He's smoking and, so many things. And you're bringing him out to pristine Navadvip. Why are you doing this? You're just flattering a materialist. Next slide. Oh, some other it's not there. Click it back one. Well, that's interesting. What actually happened? No. Go back. I'm happy where I am. Go back to, yeah. So what actually happened is for the governor to come, everyone told him it's a horrible road. He took the resources of the British Army and built a nice road to Mayapur. And after he left, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said privately to his disciples, the man was actually scratched. I know that. I just wanted to get the road. So you got a first-class road so pilgrims could come and have darshan of Mayapur. So that is a sample of the transcendental intelligence of these great souls, these great teachers, and what they're presenting to us. Next. We only have 2 or 3 more slides and we're done. Thank you very much for your patience, Prabhu. So Prabhupada, before he left for the USA, you all know the story, getting on the Jaladuta all alone. The day before, well, I'll tell it because this pastime was narrated to Jayapataka Maharaj. It was narrated to Jayapataka Maharaj by the Pujari who lives at this ashram and takes care of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's samadhi. So this pastime happened many years ago. September 1965. The Pujari comes to do his duties at the samadhi of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he sees an old man, worn clothing, all by himself. He's crying and chanting deep, sober, fixed japa and crying. So the man, Pujari, Gaudiya Math devotee, disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, comes over. And as he gets closer, he realizes this is a Bhai Babu. I knew a Bhai Babu was a household. He used to come here and visit my Guru Maharaj. So he says, oh, Bhai Babu, now you're a sannyasi. Very nice. Bhaktivedanta, I've heard about it. Why are you crying? Is something gone wrong? Someone died? Does anyone know? It's right there in front of you. Prabhupada told him, my guru has given me an impossible mission. He has told me to go to the West and give these people the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is an impossible mission, but what can I do? My guru has ordered. Does anyone know? We see Prabhupada getting on the Jaladuta all alone, 2 heart attacks, 3 heart attacks. We know the whole story. Do you know what he's carrying in his suitcase? In addition to a few changes of clothes, in addition to some personal items, he had his trunk also with his cooking stuff. Anyone know what was also in that trunk suitcase?
Bhagavatam volumes.
Actually, he had with him, he had Chaitanya Charitamrita too. Anyone know what else? He had he had some cereal, some dried grains. Because I heard Prabhupada say on the tape just the other day, he figured he had 1 month's sponsorship at Gopal Agarwal's. And he figured he had some money. He didn't know that his 40 rupees was going to be useless in America. But he figured I can pull on for another month. So 1 month sponsorship, another month, I can get some potatoes, and this way I can go on. So that's the impossible mission that Prabhupada was so surrendered and willing to execute. Next. If we think about those 4 points, those 8 points by the 4 acharyas, perfectly presented, fully, comprehensively, magnificently by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then packaged for modern times by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then present. Prabhupada's ISKCON is a boat. The rigging, the planks, the sails, everything is perfectly crafted to put the conditioned souls in the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and carry them across the ocean of birth and death. What is ISKCON? I'll tell you what ISKCON is. ISKCON, as crafted by Srila Prabhupada, is the boat of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching, the fulfillment of the desire of all the previous acharyas to carry the living entities across the ocean of birth and death. That's what ISKCON is, properly practiced. Next. Now, you see how blissful Prabhupada is? Because Prabhupada was always, even when he wasn't smiling, he wasn't just a, Santa Claus always smiling. Prabhupada would be heavy sometimes. But this is after Prabhupada had just gotten the Detroit temple. There's a whole story. Someday I'll tell you the story. But just as Prabhupada told Madhavisa Swami, it says in Bhagavad Gita, I'm going to make a note of this because I want to add a slide here. It says in Gita that one whose reactions to sinful activities are completely erased, no more sinful activity, no more pop, and who has performed lifetimes of pious activities, such a person can take the devotional service. Reaction to sinful activities, eradicated. Pious activities, big stockpile. That such a person can take to devotional service. But Madhavisa said, but Prabhupada, that wasn't me. I wasn't performing pious activities. I was sinful till the day I met you. How is it possible? Srila Prabhupada said, I have created your good fortune. Prabhupada said, it's as if someone walks up to you and hands you bags of jewels, millions of dollars, and says, take for free. That is the nature of causeless mercy. The ability to engage in devotional service is given to us by the causeless mercy of the previous acharyas of Prabhupada and Krishna. Our Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, the chain of disciplic succession, given to us. Now, there's only one thing. So Prabhupada said, as you've received, said to Madhavisa, as you've received causelessly, there's only one thing I ask you to do. Anyone know the one thing Prabhupada asked Madhavisa to do in exchange for receiving causeless mercy?
Share with others.
You're a smart man. Prabhupada said, just go and give it to others. So the purpose of this presentation is I am hoping in some small way I've instilled into you, tried to instill into you the power, the mercy, the inconceivable depth of what we have received, the teachings and practices of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nothing has been left out from the previous acharyas. We have the essence and how to practice it. All we have to do is stay in Prabhupada's boat of ISKCON, and we will cross over the ocean of birth and death and take others with us. The only thing the acharyas ask in repayment is we give the same mission and mercy to others. And that is the noble mission of ISKCON. Next. We're done. That is the end of the talk. We can go back to a full screen of everyone's bright faces and see if there's any questions. Prabhus, thank you for sitting very patiently. I appreciate that. I'm happy to see you're still there. We had a sannyasi who gave a 2-hour class one time with his eyes closed. The devotees got up and left. He opened his eyes. Nobody was left in the class. Okay, it's a true story. So does anyone have any question? Otherwise, we'll just take 15 minutes at the end because it's late for you, late for me.
Yes. Yeah, I think we might have to call it a night. It's already 9:15 over here. But we'll offer some words of thanks. So Maharaj, I want to personally thank you.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, Maharaj.
I appreciate your words of thanks, but I don't really need them. So, and everybody else, they're drawing their own opinion. So we could just, I appreciate you sat so patiently. You can appreciate me. It's a mutual love fest, and we can just end. I always get embarrassed by that stuff.
Yeah. However, I just wanted to share my ecstasy, if you will. That the way the historical context of how the Lord has personally architected the timeline of Kali Yuga for us, and how Srila Prabhupada represents the culmination of all the mercy of the Supreme Lord and of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the acharyas, and how he's packaged it and practically chewed the cud for us. And we just
are we getting a second class, or is there a question?
I just want to appreciate how you summarize.
It's done.
Thank you, Maharaj.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
No questions, and I guess no time for questions. Thank you very much,
Maharaj.
Until we meet again.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Hare Bol. Nilmani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, if you're still there.
Well, thank you all the devotees. I think Maharaj was
Maharaj left.
ecstasy, but thanks. Maybe you can thank all the devotees.
Well, thank you all the devotees. That was very enlivening presentation by Maharaj. Maharaj has that personality to energize and enthuse everybody, and presented such a nice topic in such a nice way, and made all the linkages and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has architected and pulled everything together in such a harmonious and united way. So anyway, we thank Maharaj for his time, even though he's not here. And he's so modest and humble that he doesn't want our appreciation. But thank you all the devotees. And
announcements also. Upcoming announcements, if you can hear me. So tomorrow and Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, we have His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj continuing on this quite interesting and intriguing look at the second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So please join for that. On Saturday, we will not be having any classes. However, at 11 a.m. on this channel, we'll be trying to broadcast the New York Rath Yatra. So please join for that. And Saturday evening, and the Brooklyn channel, it's called Brooklyn channel, you'll hear His Holiness Radhana Swami. On Sunday evening at 6 p.m., do not miss our very exciting and very fun two devotees who have dedicated lives to Prabhupada disciples, Mitrasena Prabhu and Madam Maharha, on their adventures in preaching in the South. So please join us for that. And every single night there's some program on this channel. So please join and look forward to seeing you.